Hello and welcome, members of the Wonderverse. I'm Hannah,
And I'm producer Nick.
and you're listening to episode 42 of Into the Wonderverse, your one and only source into all things Scarlet Witch and friends. And without further ado, let's get into it. I'm so sorry for the little absence. If some of you know, some of you don't know, my life has been a little bit chaotic in many ways at the moment, and so it just hasn't come together. Also, I'm so sorry, like there was a race this weekend, so there was a race this weekend, and I don't want to talk about it.
I feel like it's my fault. That this is that this that is now a distraction for you.
Well, there's no
Um,
race this weekend. Then it's a triple header, so
yeah, that's coming up.
but yes, thank you for all your kind commiseration messages. I am personally responsible for Charles's car.
And that is
Um,
the only F1 reference you get in this week.
I know. Well, it is what it is. This week we're going to do a bunch of news, and then we are going to cover the one episode of X-Men 97 that the twins appeared in. Next week will be almost fully comic book based. Obviously, we'll talk about any news that's come up. But I'm gonna let Nick out of his cage.
Yeah, we've had a few positive responses of me about me talking about the Ultimates. So next week is Ultimates 18 is coming out, which is pretty exciting. It's November 19th, and it's kind of the last issue before the Maker comes out of the city. So it's kind of like we'll talk about the Ultimates, get you all kind of catched up, give you thoughts, hot takes, that kind of stuff. We're also going to we're going to do a bit of a recap on One World Under Doom, just to kind of build up for Sorcerer Supreme, which is
Yeah,
due out end of the year, if memory
December
serves,
31st,
December
everybody.
31st. And we'll also, as promised, we will cover the 7 issues of Avengers the United They Stand. So it's like a fully comic book full episode next week.
Yes, so buckle your seatbelts, kids, because it's
Also,
gonna
give
be
we're letting you know a week in advance, so you can do some reading.
Nick. This is not a lecture.
It's a reading club, we're all sat around the table, chairs.
The only thing this is kind of news. The only thing that is okay, it's still kind of comic based because I think because the so I will be covering the Grimoire of Agatha Harkness that releases this Friday. So if you've pre-ordered, it'll come. If you haven't already, literally just search the Grimoire of Agatha Harkness. It's available Amazon, Waterstones, the works. I don't mean the works, the bookshop. I mean the works. If you're in America, kind of Barnes and Noble, that sort of thing. It
What's the
is
grimoire again?
it's like Agatha's spell book. It's kind of like an in-character non-fiction book, as far as I can tell.
Oh, so kind of like her version of the Darkhold, basically, but one
Yeah, and it's
by.
got like literal sticky notes from Wanda and Steven throughout. So I think
Oh
it will
wow.
be like fun and interesting. I have it pre-ordered, so when it arrives, I will give it a read. I'll let you know what the contents is. It's aimed at a teen to younger audience, so I think it'll be pretty accessible, even if you're not into like heavy reading.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a quick review of that next week because we love a bit of Agatha on the show. Um, and also talking about Sorcerer Supreme, we got our very first previews of the interiors for Sorcerer Supreme 1 this week. Very early for interiors previews, but I'm not arguing. I'm not going to fight about it. It doesn't have the text on it, it's just the artwork. But boy, is it gorgeous.
Okay.
I was really blown away. You get to see Wanda in her old outfit, and I think we're going to get a panel of her doing like a magical girl transformation where we genuinely get to see her build her new outfit from scratch, which
Okay.
it taking us back to when in the early issues of the Avengers, Wanda is physically making costumes for people because that's what women do.
Yeah.
I remember she's like, Hank, I've made a costume that stretches with you. I'm like, I didn't know you had these skills, Wanda. Where did that come from? Where'd you learn that? You didn't go to college. So, Wanda, I want to go to fashion school, Dad. Her to Magneto.
Yeah.
So the interiors look incredible. She has this street outfit that has like a galaxy skirt that reminds me of her old galaxy hair. These little nods. I love this like lore that we're building into like her visuals. I think that's so interesting and I'll be honest. At the moment, the art is so gorgeous. I almost don't care what the words say. Um,
Really hope that's not the case. Like, I really hope you do actually care
of
about them on
course,
this.
of course I care. You know I'll be the first one to start whinging if I don't like them.
Yeah.
You know that I'm the eternal whinge. That would be my superhero name.
Who would play you in a live action version of the Eternal Winch?
Okay. I mean, I've got like,
Put
um,
you on the spot there for this
I
one.
used to say like back in the day, I used to look a bit like Hannah Murray from Skins, but like now I'm a bit more, she's, I guess Hannah Murray, but like red hair,
Okay.
who played Cassie in Skins. That would be my. I don't know if she could do my accent though. She's got a very specific voice, but who would play you?
Uh, in the Eternal Winch, what am I? The guy in the chair.
I knew you were gonna say that because your wife is obsessed with the guy in the chair.
The guy in
She,
the chair. Um, who would
you'd be the
who would
straight man to me and Amy Lee's like best
cha
friendship.
chaos energy?
We
Um,
would be the main characters.
the pair of cats that you are. Honestly, like, who would play me? The problem is
Yeah,
because
I can't think
because
of
of my
anybody ethnically
because of my
lined
my
up.
ethnicity, it's quite difficult.
We'd have to
There
get an
was
unknown.
there was the kid that played what's his name in Deadpool 2, and he was in Hunt for the Wilder People as well. I can see his face now. Let me look this up. Thing is, the problem is like being Morley. There is like a difficulty with like I don't want to be played by Taika Waititi because that's disgusting. Um, but the guy's name is Julian Dennison, so he's a Morley actor. Um, so maybe him or Tamura Morrison if I'm going for a much, 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 much older person.
Well, see, much easier for me because there's a million white girls in Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and anyone can wear a wig,
Or dye their
as
hair.
I've demonstrated.
Yes. When is the Bob coming back? When is she coming back?
Well, I have some like hot takes, but like honestly, I don't know if people are ready. The fights that I'm going to continue to have online about House of M, I may have to get my wig out for.
You need to do it.
Yeah, the wig needs to come back so that I can talk to you guys about House of M. Some of the takes that I do on this podcast that the general public aren't hearing. Honestly, the wig would be better aligned to some of my opinions about my other interests that I'm no longer allowed to mention. But talking about releases, we now have a release date for the new Scarlet Witch Bitty Pop for her in her classic X-Men costume. Those are coming on the 11th of January. Now, the good news is that she is not a mystery this time round. Bad news is that some of them come with a chase, but I believe it's Mystique that gets swapped out for the chase. So that set includes the Scarlet Witch, Magneto, Quicksilver, and Mystique, which seems odd and feels mean to Polaris, who definitely should have been included in the Family Matter set.
Okay.
But once again, the forgotten child.
Okay.
Um, and then the other piece of news that we have this week is surrounding Vision Quest. So we have some
Casting
casting
news, isn't it? Casting
casting
news, yeah.
news. We have Diane Morgan, who I love. I love her so much, and she is playing an assistant of the Paladin or an associate. Some outlets are saying assistant, some are saying associate. I don't know that it entirely matters. She's not like a named character. And then we have Lauren Moraris playing Lisa Molinari, a character who is apparently closely connected to Thomas Shepard, as in Tommy Maximoff. And we do know that Joe Locke has already filmed scenes with Rudy for as brothers. We've been told that by the director that they've worked with, Jack, who is the director, Jack Sarrow, who's the director of Clarkston. I thought we already knew this piece of information because I'm pretty sure somebody else spoiled this that Joe had been on set. I think it was on Watch What. No, it was on TikTok Live. It got spoiled that Joe had been filming again. Now we don't know if this is for Vision Quest or for Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah.
I would make a gander and guess at both. If they've just got them filming against a green screen, they could have done both in a day.
Hmm.
Because if we heard a rumor that the end credit sequence of Vision Quest involved them Finding Billy. So they could have filmed the Finding Billy and then, you know, other stuff on the same day. Apparently they filmed it for one day. They filmed scenes and they were there for one day.
Okay. It does sound very like a very small part of the actual show, doesn't it?
Well, again, I do feel Lizzie Olsen said this week that she didn't know it was happening. She didn't know Vision Quest was happening until Paul told her, which we kind of know is a lie already because she was told at a convention recently. It was literally talked about at a bunch of conventions she's been at. But if she is in it, she's giving it the Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, we need to get Tom Holland on that one. I think I think with Vision Quest, like a day's worth of shoot honestly doesn't speak to anything substantial. I don't know if that's a disappointment to you, like
Not
whether you would wanted like an
really.
episode where they actually are together, or like is it like just one of those post credits thing where it's going to be
Well,
just
we
another thing that's
know.
going to lead into something?
Well, I said, now I posted a video on my TikTok where I gave some Vision Quest predictions, and I think that the show is going to be split into either two or three major timelines. The first one will be taking place entirely inside Vision's head. The second, I do think that we are getting the creation of Viv Vision, but I think they're going to. I don't remember if I said this on the pod last week or if I said it just. I don't know if I just spoke to you about this. It's hard to remember. I said I think they're going to swap out Vivian for Jocasta because in the comics, Jocasta is Ultron's wife,
Yeah.
but I think that it's too complex to do Vivian on TV because it involves getting Wanda's brainwaves and like, you know, we know Jocasta has been cast. There was no casting call for Vivian, but there was for Viv.
Okay.
So I think that it would make sense if they used Jocasta in Vivian's role rather than trying to like fiddle around with making. I think I think it's one of those things that works better in comics than in the MCU is kind of a little bit more grounded in reality. Also, Wanda's not around to give in the comics she gifts Vision her brainwaves to make a wife, which is weird when I say it out loud like that.
A little bit weird.
When we get close to Vision Quest, we will cover the Visions as a comic. Um, because it's a
The
really interesting one.
is the Bob gonna come out for that one? Because I know that there are some takes to do with Tom King that might or warrant the Bob.
Yeah, maybe I'll just start filming this podcast with the Bob on. Like maybe the Bob just needs to be on at all times. Who knows? Um I don't know. I feel like on the show every week you're like la 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 and I'm like and then another thing and another thing and another.
Yeah,
That's
I'm just kind of skipping through the grass, you know, just
that's
like
also our conversations about like almost everything we discuss though. It's me and Emily like meow and you like okay, well,
I can get pretty hot about takes, you know, surely like can I? I don't know.
usually it's just us saying we don't like something and and you being like but the director.
Yeah, that's true.
Just a little bit of promo for you. When is your episode on Frankenstein coming out?
Ah, yeah. So, I recorded an episode with my long suffering co-host and friend Danny, for my Keen Atomic podcast, and so that should be releasing this week, where I actually talk about my time on set of Frankenstein. So if you guys want to hear that, you'll need to look up Keen Atomic on on the podcast any podcast feed.
Actually, I will link it. I will link it for you. I will
And
link
it'll
it
also be on my
in.
socials, which means it'll be on Hannah's socials. So yeah, it'll be this week, some point this week.
Yeah, sometimes Nick messages me and is like, "Can you share my stuff?" That's the life of the rich and famous,
Yeah, you are
or
rich and famous, and
the life of the poor and sad.
I am just but a povo that needs the attention.
Well, cultural capital can lead to wealth, but not in my case. Shop on my Vinted, guys. I'm poor.
Yeah,
Um,
there's the time to plug the Vinted.
but yeah, I think that the to finish off what I was actually saying before I got completely on a tangent, I think that this third thing will be Vision kind of realizing that he can't just manufacture family and wanting to find his his sons, and then he'll go and find Tommy first, and then they together will find Billy. Is my guess at how this is going to work.
Yeah, that's
Or
that.
who knows, maybe Tommy will have a more prominent role. I just don't know. I don't unless he's also playing, we know he's playing Tommy, but like unless he's also playing Vin, which he could, I guess theoretically, but I don't know how that would work. But I'm interested to see again. I'm very interested in this show conceptually. Um, I am very sat for it. And Rivals just dropped the classic Wanda skin and canonized to some descript Wanda and Venom. What a day.
The comic accurate costume is making everybody very normal online, though the reaction to that has been very normal.
I wish that they had kept the classic cloak. I wish it wasn't this weird. Um, I wish it wasn't this weird, like almost scarf looking moment. I wish they had gone with a full cloak.
Yeah, maybe they didn't go for the cloak because of design reasons compared, if you see a red cloak on Marvel Rivals, you might just assume it's
Well,
strange,
the
not.
initial design had the cloak, which is why everybody's so up in arms about it. It's very Rivals has a very specific style. This is the season of love. That's what the new season is called, and they have paired up Wonder and Venom for that.
Thoughts?
Um, Look, I'm this is an unpopular opinion. I like it. You know what? Wanda's always been one for the unconventional men. I think it's fun. I think that some of the best pairings are weird, and I think it's a comic world, you know?
Is this Eddie Brock Venom or is this Flash Thompson Venom?
I have no idea. I'm not up on my Marvel Rivals Venom
If
lore.
somebody's listening to this and knows the answer to that question, please let us know.
Please let us know. Again, I consume Marvel Rivals through I read any Wanda lore that comes out. I watch any video with Wanda in it, but I am not up on my top. I would not consider myself a Rivals expert in any way. I saw Wanda's new MVP graphic. I will give my opinion on her looks from a purely Wanda Stan perspective. I think it's fine. I like that they've got the House of M moment on here. It reminds me a little bit of I think it's fun. This outfit's fun to me because it's so reminiscent of Kate Higgins's Wanda in Wolverine and the X-Men. Got it the right way around. I want 15 points. Um it's very reminiscent of that look, and that excites me because it feels like a reference to Kate herself. I we did get your fan mail. It is our dream to get Kate on this show. I have emailed her many times. She has not said yes. Believe you me, we know who Kate is. She is my OG Wanda. And if we can get her, we absolutely will. Thank you so much for the fan mail. We so appreciate it.
Yeah,
Um, but Kate is like one of my dream guests. I have a list of dream guests, and Kate, after Elizabeth Olsen, is like right there. Um, but please use that fan mail button. We read every single one, both me and Nick. We are so grateful for your kind words. Genuinely, it's like those or any of the messages you guys have sent me, the way that you guys keep me updated on Wonder News before I even have a chance. Like, thank you. I so appreciate it.
yeah, it's honestly exciting that you guys are actually listen to the show and respond back.
Yeah,
Um, like,
it's I feel incredibly privileged to get to speak to you guys.
shall we go into what is it next? Family ties.
Yes. So, a little bit of background here. So, before I ever started this podcast, when I was just first doing TikTok, I actually was writing a book about Wanda. It's still kind of in the ether somewhere, but I committed myself a little bit more to the podcast and to everything else. I reached out to every voice actress who's ever played Wanda. And I need you all to know that Susan Roman did not voice Wanda in X-Men and the Wolver not X-Men the Wolverine, in X-Men 97. I sent her an email and I was like, I would love to interview you for the book, and she said, it wasn't me. I don't know why it's accredited to me. It isn't me. And I have never been able to get hold of who voiced Wanda in this episode. It's always listed as Susan Roman, and if you watch the credits, she's not credited. No one's credited for the voice of Wanda, so I can't tell you who it is.
So this isn't X-Men 97. This is
Yes.
because X-Men 97 is what they called it a couple of years ago with this kind of legacy sequel series.
Mm-hmm.
This is X-Men colon the animated series, which ran from 1994 to 1997, which is why the sequel series is called 97. Family Ties came out and is in the fourth season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you're basically telling me that there is no voice actress for the Scarlet Witch credited.
It's a mystery. Yeah, if you guys can, I have been looking for this information for a couple years. Really interested to know who it is. I think I'm going to say it before we even get talking about it. If you want a pretty succinct way of looking at Wanda and Pietro's comic book origins, this episode is pretty good for that. It's the most comic accurate backstory for Wanda and Pietro under the old rules, but still is mostly their backstory. This is the episode to watch. If you don't want to read early comics, but you kind of want to get a flavor of classic Wanda, this is basically it. Obviously, it doesn't have them kind of joining the Brotherhood, and they like hate Magneto in this, but it's pretty much their origin story.
The part of X Factor in this.
What do you mean?
Well, the like because Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch get that message about their
Oh, yeah, yeah,
father,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then they get told to go to Wondagore and they end up facing Magneto or Magnus, and I think it's Beast says something along the lines of like, it's not like the X Factor to go and do this or something like that, or something along those lines.
Yeah, sorry. It took me a second to work out what you're referencing there. But yeah, this is pretty much they're in their classic costumes, other than the wimple is the tiara rather than the full face moment. But that's never been put in. No one ever gives Wanda that full face moment.
Yeah.
But basically this episode is a almost complete arc within itself. Um you get the twins discovering that Magneto was their father, and you get Wanda on her amazing hover bike thing that if you have seen the Toy Biz figure from the early 2000s, they kind of tried to recreate for her vehicle, I'll say. So this is a pretty iconic. Wanda falls like 3 different times in this episode, and very much is giving. We don't know who those screams can be accredited to.
Yeah, we don't. I'm doing a little bit of obviously doing a little bit of digging. Everywhere has it listed as Susan Roman.
Yep, and it isn't her.
That's very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, she literally said in her email to me, if you ever find out, could you tell me? Because I would love to like make sure that people stop like crediting me.
I wonder if there's a way we can. I don't know. Are we able to like reach out to the original X-Men producers or something, or somebody on that
I'm pretty sure I
episode?
sent like an email into the ether a long time ago, but I didn't have I think we now have a professional email. So maybe we can do a little bit more
We've
with
got a
it.
little bit. We've got a little bit of clout now.
Not a
So
lot of cultural cachet, like genuinely none,
I think it's a
but
TikTok thing as well. I think if you do a TikTok thing about it, like I think people will get on board.
maybe we'll
Finding the
Isn't
lost
there like
wonder.
a aren't there like isn't like a Reddit? There's a subreddit dedicated to like finding things that because I mean I found out who the actual actress for the very first Wanda was because it's miscredited all over the place. And like I'm crazy, so like I like found her like death announcement and stuff because I'm like super crazy.
I mean,
I
you're just
I found her family
dedicated.
on Facebook.
That is crazy.
Well,
Um,
they had like a thing being like it actually was my great aunt. It wasn't this person. I was like, I needed to know the truth, Nick.
no, no, it's that's fair enough. I mean, I think maybe we'll make it our mission to try and one of our missions to find out who
You
this
think you've
lost
seen
wanderer is.
Crazy? You haven't seen Crazy, Jay.
Thanks for that.
Niche reference for the girls that get it.
Very niche.
Do you get it, or am I just?
I don't get it. I'm just going with it. It's so niche that not even I know it.
It's like such a big meme on TikTok right now.
Okay,
Like,
that'll be why.
yeah. Nick's For You page is just like football clips.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I like watching football. I like watching football from the 1990s. Nothing wrong with it. So, family ties.
Family Ties. It's a really what's really good about this stage of t TV compared with some of the other TV that we've discussed before is again, this is like there is more than their story going on in this episode, but they managed to have a colon complete plot right in front
It is
of you.
actually insane, like how succinctly this episode is written. Like, they really jumped you right into it, and like straight away, it's just talking about Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Then going into the whole thing to do with their father dying, and then we learn more about the backstory with how they were born and their relationship to Magneto. And they add on top of that, there's the high evolutionaries in it,
Yes.
which is just
Who
insane.
so in this version, the High Evolutionary is kind of a background figure, whereas in current comics, the High Evolutionary made Wanda and Pietro have their powers. It's dumb. Um, so obviously, yeah, in this episode, the High Evolutionary wants to use them to further his experiments. But in the original comics, no, in the current comics, he was just using them as experiments, and there's no allegedly no Magneto involvement.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Also, there's like a Wolverine subplot at some point during this episode.
Yeah, Wolverine. Honestly, it's been a fair long time since I've watched any episode of X-Men the animated series. I forgot how strange it is for me to hear those kind of voices coming out of Professor X and out of Wolverine because I don't associate those voices for those two characters. Um, like Wolverine is a bit more kind of fluid. I'm kind of hearing more of like a combination of, Hugh Jackman and the voice actor from Wolverine in the X-Men. Whereas like Professor X, that's straight up that Charles Xavier is just Patrick Stewart for me. So it's like really quite strange to hear those voice actors. I think the Wolverine kind of plot is like it's honestly really funny actually that moment Magnus like breaks into the mansion and he's like, and Professor X says, "How did you get in?" And it literally cuts to like a CCTV screen of Wolverine getting like electrocuted on a chair, um, and it's like Wolverine's just pretty much
Wolverine's
taking
almost
insult to everything Magnus does.
always going through it in an episode of TV where Wanda's involved because in Wolverine and the X-Men, there's that whole episode where he's like gone feral and then Wanda and Kurt have to do something about it. Like why is Wolverine always suffering um when there are things happening with Wanda? Interesting question.
I'm on the IMDb with this episode. Um, so actually something interesting for us, I guess, for me and you. This episode's release date was 4th of May, 1996.
Oh, your birthday.
I know, right? Um, bit more lore for you guys. This was directed by Larry Houston and Fred Miller, so I think we're gonna have to email those two. Written by Marley Clark, Bob Harris, Eric Leewold, Um, honestly, like the three writers kind of want to like those three writers working together. I think it's kind of one of those things where they're the way they write these seasons is write these episodes and these seasons. They have just kind of this broad view of what they're going to do across the season. Especially X-Men the anime series, they have these like arcs that kind of carry on through the season. So I'd imagine like they would have penciled in an arc and then they would then just focus in on like so this episode we're going to do this episode we're going to do that, and then they decided that there needs an episode to focus on Magneto, and very much like because I imagine in this point in the series as well, Magneto is more become a lot more of a complexer character than just the straight out villain that he was in the first season, if memory serves.
Hmm.
So I imagine this is very much leaning into the Magneto is not just a villain, like he's also a villain with depth, and we're looking into more of his tragic backstory with Magda dying and the twins and all this kind of stuff. It is interesting that I'd imagine, I'd imagine, like because of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, because of their association with the Avengers, I'd imagine like there is just so much there that they don't want to get into it with the X-Men because obviously the X-Men is very much its own separate thing. And I think once you bring in Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch, because they bleed over into the Avengers quite a lot, there is I'd imagine like it's a case of like wait we can't do Wanda and Pietro because of we've just got so much to do with the X-Men. We can't do Avengers stuff as well because it becomes a bit too messy in case they wanted to do an Avengers series, which of course they ended up doing a few years later with Avengers United They Stand. Same production crew and all that kind of stuff. Um, so it is interesting that we get this episode which is so self-contained. Um, and it's very, very well written. I gotta say, it's 22 minutes long, and it really blasts through it, and it's actually very, very well written. The animation is classic 90's animated style, the X Men style at that time. Sent me a bit on a nostalgia wave watching it on Fox Kids as a kid. Um, and I gotta say, like it was, it's a pretty good episode. It's a pretty good episode.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful episode of TV and a shows why this show deserved to come back. Like I am very excited to see Wanda and Pietro were in shadow in the last episode of X-Men 97. They also showed us like off-world in a different episode of X-Men 97. So hopefully we'll see them back in season 2. I can't see why we wouldn't because like Rogue is a major character and she's like helped out of the Nile by Magnus.
Yeah.
I would imagine, and I think Polaris was also on that boat. I'm so sorry again. Poor Polaris cannot catch a break with being left out of the Magnet family moments. Um, I would love to see kind of us explore how the twins' relationship with Magneto has expanded. I am so afraid that somehow we're going to end up with no more mutants because everyone wants to be the one to pull the trigger on that. Um, but I'm excited to see them back, and maybe we'll find out who the original voice actress was because they'll bring her back for X-Men 97. It's an
Although
episode of television that I just can't recommend enough. I don't, there's no flaws with it really. Like it's a self-contained story. You can watch it as like a little Wanda origin movie. Her powers are very weak, but that's just how Wanda often is in X-Men related projects.
I think that yeah, that's if I was gonna have any kind of complaint is that this is post Scarlet Witch 94 comic book series, so I'd imagine that's not really bled over into
Her
uh,
powers are like weaker than they are in her first Avengers appearance.
yeah.
Like it's very much giving her very first appearance in the X-Men when she like would just point at stuff, and they never know how to really represent her powers because she's like they're too afraid to introduce her as this massively powerful character, then be like, and then we won't talk about her ever again. Or, you don't want to make her look too strong next to the X-Men, I guess.
I will give it this, right? I will give it this, and I know you're not gonna like me saying this. So we've gone through the 90's quite a lot over the last quite a few episodes actually. We've been kind of very much focused on the 90's period because that's really when Wanda started kind of coming back in other media that isn't comics. There the TV stuff kind of has her power set being quite tame compared to her comic book power set, which is obvious, which is start leaning towards like, especially the Solar 94 series is leaning towards understanding, what it is to actually be this kind of character, with this kind of power set, which obviously leads then on to the late 90's. Early 2000s, we get Avengers Disassembled, and it seems that like is at that point where the writers, the comic book writers, are understanding the actual sheer kind of power that a character with that power set has, and then obviously leads us on to House of M. So I know you're not the fan of House of M or anything like kind of that, but if anything, like between Disassembled and House of M, it really sets up Wanda to be this kind of powerful character. So much so that when they come to do her in live action, they're really actually, or come to do it in live action, they're actually understanding what it is that makes the character um
Now
more
I wanna
interesting other than just actually being an interesting character. It's the power set behind it.
I want to push back a little bit on this because I want to credit George Perez in the late 90's, which we haven't covered
We haven't covered.
like again, 1994 lays the groundwork. And also I want to like all the stuff in the 80's where she's like discovering magic and also her and Vision's little solo series. All of those powers are like she's a witch. It's a very different, but I feel like that was almost too complex. That element of witchcraft is they do explore obviously in United They Stand and then again in Evolution. But I do want to credit the end of the 90's. The 90's as a whole is Wanda's resurgence. She brings people back to life at the end. She brings Wonder Man back to life, in the 90's. I do think that it just takes about 10 years for that to cognitively. I mean, House Band was something you couldn't ignore. It meant that when you said Wanda's name, you had to think of that level of power. That is what I will do it. But the idea didn't come from House of M. Her comic book power set had already very much been expanded by that point, and House of M almost actually undid some of the world building that had been done by other creators because like it's nothing to do with Wanda. In fact, it muddled what her power set was because we had very much established that it was this like it was this the probability warping with magic, and then House of M makes her into a reality bender, which kind of wasn't where she was before. It did it she was nibbling on some other people's nachos a little bit.
Yeah.
I think, but I do think it was the one that meant that when you talked about her, you couldn't make her pathetic upon entrance.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of been like my George Perez's series notwithstanding, because obviously we haven't got to that point yet, and I've not read it. But if you're going by comic animation series, because obviously that's what she's been appearing in, apart from in the comics. So the Iron Man cartoon, Avengers United They Stand, and in Family Ties, her power set isn't like the strongest. It's very much just kind of waving arms and red
Actually, to
lightning
give the
comes
Iron
out.
Man 1994 its flowers, she's very powerful. Tony's just ignoring her. Like we said it every like issue Tony gets into could be fixed by Sentry and Wanda in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, I give it that.
And like I was saying that my dad was saying this to me. He was like, why would they send the man in the iron suit when they had like this alien from with like the souls of other planets and then an all-powerful witch? And I'm like, Dad, don't ask questions. It was the 90's.
Yeah, no, fair point. If anything, this Family Ties episode kind of makes me realize that it is disappointing that Wanda just kind of didn't get anything larger than just being part of a team. Um, in animation at least. I'm not saying that she'd have had her own solo series, but I think I might have said this when we were talking about the Avengers United They Stand. But it's just in. I know we definitely talk about the Iron Man TV series. Is that it feels as though she kind of got a bit um let down by kind of storytelling at the time. She did there wasn't an Avengers cartoon. There was an Avengers cartoon that really went to the level of the X-Men cartoons, for example. And when they actually tried it with Avengers United They Stand, they cancelled it.
And then
Um,
they just restarted with the other Avengers show that
yeah,
then didn't feature
which didn't
because
feature an
of
individual member. Yeah.
well,
Um,
because of House of M. I think that it's always been an issue, and like I knew this when I became a Wanda fan, that Marvel has always struggled with mutant characters who are not X-Men, because then you have to address why they why they're not X-Men basically, and why and where their allegiances are within that community. And it's always been this kind of characters kind of use like again, Wanda and Pietro came from X-Men but went to the Avengers. But if you look at mutant members of the Avengers, they've almost always also been members of the X-Men.
yeah.
And so like Storm has very much, I would say, has a life of her own outside of, because she's like outside of the X-Men, because she went over and she was in the Black Panther comics very recently as a solo without really mentioning the X-Men. There and obviously Wolverine completely like he's everywhere. Beast was everywhere in like the 80s. If you like Beast was such a major member of the Avengers in the 70s and 80s. It's so jarring. And there's this one time we'll have book club again, and I will make you read the weird 70s pulp novel that is this Avengers book that Beast is in. And like, this is a novel meant for like young adults, and they have Beast like being really horny on main. It's so weird. It's written like a detective pulpy book, but was aimed at like teenagers to like children.
Okay, I gotta read this.
It I'll send you there's like a I think you can get it from like the National Library online. I read it like a physical PDF of it because the book itself is so difficult to get hold of, but it's hilarious. It is one of there's like also this part where like Wanda and Vision are kind of like making out in the elevator, and Vision like comes through a wall to do it. It is a complete trip. I will have book club one week, and I can't wait for your reaction to it because it's so funny. But yeah, this episode is really good. I really recommend it. If you're asking me, like, I want to kind of like start with Wanda, where should I start? And if you want just like a fun little like moment, it's on Disney Plus. I would just watch this one episode, and then you can kind of go into her comics from this episode. Obviously, like, it doesn't cover her being a member of the Brotherhood, but and yada yada yada. But it is a pretty good entry into her very initial characterization, because this is how weak her powers were when she's first like, introduced. And I think that's what we are missing a little bit in terms of shows, is this build up of power rather than starting super powerful. Because we saw that with Wanda in the MCU, she well, not really. She was super powerful in the first movie, and then they toned it down for Civil War almost because she would be too key of a player.
I mean, yeah, they toned it down for Civil War. Well, they didn't actually. They didn't tone it down for Civil War. They she was very much like on what was it? So she stopped Crossbones from blowing up and killing loads of people, and it was very much then they used the writers of the movie then used her guilt to stop her from using her powers again until it was time for her to kind of escape with Hawkeye. And then we have that scene on the airstrip, which in 2016 was the greatest thing ever. But when you look back on it, you're thinking, wow, this is a bit fun, question mark. Um, and it's really, she's just paired up with the Vision because you can't have Wanda against anyone else and you can't have Vision against anyone else. I mean, it was shown what would happen if Vision went up against everyone else because he was pretty much responsible for paralyzing Rhodey. Um, but we don't talk about that. It the, the Scarlet Witch of it all in the movies. You are right. It's like she was very powerful in Age of Ultron, and then in Civil War, it's like very much kind of on the back burner because there's all the Avengers. What do we call it? Avengers 2.5, pretty much.
Yeah.
Um,
We only have Chris Evans for a certain amount of movies, so we have to cram it in real quick.
yeah, it's honestly like it's great that we got WandaVision. I think that's kind of it. Really, just kind of show off her powers in the way that you went in the way that we ended up getting. And I know we're kind of like branching off now away from the Family Ties episode, but if we're kind of branching off from where the if we're kind of wrapping up the 90's a little bit because I know it was a little bit.
Nick wants to get out of the 90's so bad. Every time he's like, "Are we done with it?" Like every time we finish an episode, he goes, "I think we're pretty much done with the 90's," and I'm like, "Surprise, Shawty!
Yeah,
There's
I know
more."
we've still got George Perez, haven't we?
You'll like
Um,
that. That run is mu much more your cup of tea than it's very different to like the I'm not gonna make you sit through some of her X-Men storylines in the 90's. I'll let you could be free.
I mean, I don't mind doing it. I mean, at the end of the day, we did go through the Iron Man 94 series. Like,
Honestly, I lost years of my life doing that.
I went grey during the time
When we were
watching that
rewatching
show.
it together, literally we would be like, "What is happening? What is happening? What is happening?" Um, but yeah, well, it's almost my 30th birthday, 2nd of December, everyone. So it's good that I'm reliving the 90's where when I was born. So, this is Wanda when I was born. But we'll travel through time a little bit. We'll like this is us wrapping up the 90's. We'll come to X-Men Evolution soon and Superhero Squad, which Nick is gonna love
I mean,
so much.
I legit love X-Men Evolution, so
I
like
see. I hate this version of Wanda. It's like my least favorite
I'm a
one.
big fan of X-Men Evolution. I don't know. Actually, I'd be really interested to rewatch it because like I I haven't seen that show since I was like 12, 13 when it kind of aired. So it'd be interesting to kind of see that now as a fully grown adult. And was it Superhero Squad?
Superhero Squad. This is the one I know the least. I have seen it in passing, but it's very much for kids.
Okay, that's fine. We can do that.
Yeah, we can. We'll get to that. And then we'll go right back to the beginning and watch the original cartoon.
Which long-time listeners of the podcast will know that Hannah already did that, but we're going to do it again with me.
Yay! And
But
also I
that's
won't be completely scripted.
but the,
Everything used to be written down. I used to just read from a script.
I have a picture of you reading from script into the mic. But this is episodes and episodes down the line. We've got a lot more kind of going on, obviously, week on week. We're going to try and keep up with the date with the comic book news and obviously Wonder Man, all that kind of stuff. So don't worry. Um, we're not going anywhere just yet. We've got loads more content to get through.
Absolutely. But that's pretty much our show for this week. Like we said, you can send us suggestions, fan mail, like let us know who you'd like to have on the show. Let us know what you like hearing about on the show. Like if you want to hear more about comics, if you want to hear more about live action, request whatever. If you think I should get more than one F1 reference a week, let Nick know because he polices me.
Might need to bribe me with something.
He says that. He says that he introduced me to F1, just to let you know. This is all his fault. Um, I didn't get into it through Drive to Survive. I didn't get into it through like books or anything or just seeing it on TV. I got into it through Nick, which is like the funniest. Like when I'm on people like, how'd you get into it? And I'm like, just this guy that I know, my producer. But just let us know. You can press that button. It says text us, but it's basically like a little email. We adore every single one. I print them off. I'm crazy. Um, or message me on my Instagram, the Wonderverse, my TikTok, Into the Wonderverse, Twitter, the Wonderverse. Thank you to the people on Twitter. You've been so nice to me, which is so weird because that is where I'm the most bitchy, for sure.
You can find my non-bitchy self on the Film Nick on Instagram, the Film Nick on TikTok, and on Letterboxd, the Film Nick, where I'm currently working my way through the movies of one Mark Cousins, an Irish documentary filmmaker, who I am interviewing in 3 weeks' time.
I'm about
Um,
to start watching really bad Christmas movies with Rhiannon. You can find me on Letterboxd at Hannah Maximoff.
um, yeah,
Nick
I
can't wait. In Search for Santa is coming.
In Search for Santa is coming. I can't. It's that time of year again where we're going to
Our
get talking about In Search for Santa.
literally, I think you should have me on Keen Atomic to talk about In Search for Santa. Um, our
Speaking of,
one.
remember, Keen Atomic is on any podcast network, so you can find me talking about Frankenstein on there. And keep peeled for our on all of our socials, because the Patreon is coming, and we're going to launch intros on how to, get involved with all of that in the next few weeks.
Woohoo! Our art is by the most gorgeous, wonderful Lily. You can find her link below. Music by Melody Ray Griffiths. And until I see you next time, Nick, you can say it.
Stay magical.
Yay! I said, are you? I said, are you ready, kid?
Aye, aye, Captain.
That was like the least enthusiastic